In August 2024, a federal judge wrote 277 pages explaining that Google is a monopolist. 8 months later, a second federal judge said the same thing about a different part of Google's business. The stock hit an all-time high anyway. That contradiction is not a market quirk. It is a warning sign sitting in plain sight. Two separate federal courts confirmed that Google illegally monopolized the internet, first in search, then in the advertising technology stack that funds the open web. The company that controls roughly 90% of global search queries maintained that control through illegal means. Then the same company was found to have illegally monopolized the ad server market, where its tools held an estimated 91% share. Combined, these two revenue channels represent approximately 75% of Alphabet's income. The court said the machine was built on illegal foundations. The market priced it as an AI winner. If you found this kind of financial expose valuable, subscribing takes 2 seconds and costs nothing. The mechanism underneath this contradiction is stranger than the verdict itself. Google deployed AI overviews to defend its search moat against ChatGPT and Perplexity. The strategy worked in a narrow sense, but those AI overviews answered queries directly inside Google's interface and stopped sending people to the websites that produced the answers. Zero-click searches rose from 56% to 69% in a single year. Nearly 7 out of 10 searches now end on Google's page. The people who built the content Google summarized got nothing. Publisher referral traffic from Google dropped 33% globally in the year to November 2025, measured across more than 2,500 websites. Business Insider lost 55% of its organic search traffic between 2022 and 2025 and cut 21% of its staff. HuffPost lost approximately half its search referrals over the same period. Stereogum, a music publication that survived the collapse of CDs, streaming, and 15 years of social media, implemented a tip jar in 2025 because Google's AI was answering music questions without routing anyone there. The circular logic is the story. Google built AI using content produced by publishers. That AI killed the traffic that funded those publishers. Fewer funded publishers means less original content. Less original content means less open web inventory for Google to sell advertising against. Google's AI is consuming the supply chain that made its advertising business worth anything. In April 2025, Judge Leonie Brinkema found that Google willfully acquired and maintained monopoly power in both the publisher ad server market and the ad exchange market, locking publishers into its ecosystem for over a decade. The ruling addressed approximately $31 billion of revenue. The DOJ has proposed forcing Google to sell its Google Ad Manager suite. The instruments the court confirmed were the monopoly. That remedies phase is still pending. The search case is not resolved either. The DOJ appealed the September 2025 remedies in February 2026. States filed separate appeals. A higher court could still require divestiture of Chrome, AdX, or DFP. The legal story the market decided was over is still open. Now consider what sits on top of all of this. The Apple deal. Google pays Apple an estimated $15 to $20 billion per year to remain the default search engine on iPhones, Macs, and iPads. That single payment represents approximately 15% of Apple's earnings per share, according to JP Morgan estimates. Under the September 2025 court order, Google can no longer make that deal exclusive. The arrangement is now limited to annual renewable contracts with no exclusivity bonuses. Apple's worst-case revenue exposure was estimated at $12.5 billion annually. That number is not priced into Apple's valuation at 31 times forward earnings. $2 trillion companies, one fragile annual contract, one appellate court still deciding whether even that survives. Subscribe if you want the stories Wall Street hopes you'll miss. Alphabet disclosed capital expenditure of $75 billion for 2025 in February of that year, raised it to $85 billion in July, raised it again to $91 to $93 billion in October. 3 upward revisions in 1 year, each one surprising analysts. For 2026, the company projected $175 to $185 billion, nearly double its 2025 spending, funded primarily by the same advertising business convicted of illegal monopoly twice. Google Cloud's backlog reached $240 billion at the end of 2025. The growth rate was 48% year over year. These numbers are real, but a backlog is a commitment, not delivered revenue. Some portion comes from companies building AI products financed by venture capital that depends on the AI investment cycle remaining credible. The CapEx builds the infrastructure. The infrastructure enables cloud revenue. The cloud revenue justifies the CapEx. That chain is only as strong as the demand keeping every link of it funded. This pattern has a name. In 1999 and 2000, Cisco Systems was the essential infrastructure company of the internet build-out. The market cap peaked near $555 billion. Then the telecom companies that had borrowed to build fiber networks could not fill them. Cisco had extended vendor financing to customers who used it to buy Cisco equipment. When demand normalized, Cisco fell approximately 86% from its peak. The stock did not recover to its 2000 high for roughly 20 years. The technology was real. The routers worked. The assumptions about demand did not. Alphabet is making Cisco-scale commitments, $91 to $185 billion per year, on the assumption that AI cloud demand will absorb every data center it builds. The difference is that Alphabet has a profitable advertising business as backstop. The problem is that advertising business has 2 monopoly convictions on it, and per-user search engagement fell nearly 20% year over year in the fourth quarter of 2025. Most people watching this have not spent $1 on Google Cloud. It does not matter. Alphabet's 2 share classes together represent an estimated 3.5 to 4% of the S&P 500. Every American with a 401k index to the S&P 500 holds approximately 3 to 4 cents of every invested dollar in Alphabet. Every pension fund benchmarked to the index carries it. The passive investor has no exit button. They are long Alphabet, whether they chose to be or not, at a valuation that has not absorbed 2 monopoly convictions, a DOJ appeal, a legally constrained Apple deal, and a quietly contracting search engagement rate. The workers are not abstract. Business Insider's 21% workforce reduction was a consequence of Google's AI answering questions without routing anyone to Business Insider. Chegg reported a 49% decline in non-subscriber traffic in 1 year and filed an antitrust lawsuit alleging Google used its content to train AI that now competes with it. The Reuters Institute surveyed 280 media leaders across 51 countries. They expect a 43% average traffic decline over 3 years. 1 in 5 expect losses exceeding 75%. Those are not traffic statistics. Those are jobs, local reporters, editorial staff. people whose work became the training data for the system that replaced their income. All AI platforms combined, ChatGPT, Perplexity, every alternative, account for approximately 1% of total publisher referral traffic. There is no replacement channel large enough to absorb what Google's AI is removing from the open web. The Microsoft antitrust case is the most direct legal parallel. Microsoft was found to have illegally tied its browser to its operating system and used monopoly power to foreclose rivals. The stock fell approximately 63% from its 1999 peak to its 2002 trough. It took roughly a decade to recover. Microsoft was not destroyed. Windows survived. What died was the assumption that monopoly-built moats were permanent. Google faces the same reckoning, simultaneously across two separate revenue stacks with appellate pressure still advancing. The technology is not the problem. Gemini nearly quadrupled its AI chatbot web traffic share between January 2025 and March 2026. Google Cloud's infrastructure is real. AI search as a behavior is not reversible. That part of the future is not in dispute. What is in dispute is whether the machine Google built to dominate that future, the exclusive defaults, the illegal ad stack, the zero-click ecosystem that absorbs the web instead of indexing it, was ever a sustainable foundation or always a monopoly pretending to be a moat. The courts answered that twice. The technology works. The business model was a monopoly. The court said so twice. Now we wait to see which one the market was actually pricing. If this analysis matters to you, subscribe. Most people holding this risk have no idea it exists.